All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion. Team Builder wants to give you a free 30-day trial of their platform, which is pretty cool because if you're just a regular old nobody and you go on their website, you get a 14-day free trial. But if you go on and enter TTFP for Tailboard Talks Firefighter Podcast, you get 30-day free trial. Team Builder is a software for firefighter-specific tactical strength coaches around the world. It's used to prepare first responders and rescuers to meet the demands of the job. The Powerhouse platform provides coaches with an elevated experience when it comes to program development, data tracking, and staying connected with users. The software allows coaches to individualize training and quickly track exertion of each user to make informed training decisions. Go to teambuilder.com, teambuildr.com, and sign up. Use the TTFP code for a free 30-day trial. Hyperice wants to give your department a free massage gun, the Hypervolt Go 2. They want to be in the fire service. So they reached out and they said, hey, advertise us on your podcast and let's see how many people we can get free guns to. They want to do a free 60-day trial of the Hypervolt Go 2. That's their portable model. I have the Hypervolt Go 1, which I'll have to talk to them about. But it's compact, it's powerful, and there's really no strings attached to this thing. It's not like a giveaway or an offer code or anything like that. If you reach out to me, hit me on Instagram at 4th Shift Fitness, number 4th Shift Fitness, or email me 4thshiftfit@gmail.com. That's 4thshiftfit@gmail.com. I'm going to send you a link to schedule a phone call, 5-minute phone call with my rep over there at Hyperice. They just want to ask you some questions so they can better position themselves to get in the fire service. After that, they're going to send you a Hypervolt Go 2 to try out for 60 days, risk-free, no strings attached. You just get a gun for your department. I hope you take advantage of this. We got a deadline of December 31st for this, so reach out, don't hesitate, and get your free gun. All right, today is part 2 of the Joe Galli sit down in the garage. We did a little workout and then had some coffee and had a chat. Part 1 was last week. We talked about a bunch of stuff for the first 25 minutes, and then we got into what he's doing now, which is a run for District 4 VP for the AFFI. Today we're going to talk about more of that, what he views the District VP role as, and also kind of some of his plans and examples how he's carried out his plans and his vision for the fire service. So I hope you guys dig it. Talk to you soon. Here's the episode. Here comes the intro. Skip forward 30 seconds if you want to get right to the episode. This is the Tailboard Talk Podcast, the best health, wellness, and lifestyle resource for the fire service. We're using stories, lessons, and tips from the front lines to give a realistic view of what the job can do to us and how we can make it out alive. I'm Chris Morella, a firefighter since 03, medic since 05, full-time since 08, and promoted to lieutenant in 20. I'm also a personal trainer and strength coach, and I'm here to give you the best information and host the best discussions to make us capable and durable, both on the job and away from it. So grab a heater, steal some fancy creamer from First Shift, and let's go chat.
Basically, think of the AFFI as 3 branches, I guess you could say.
Okay.
You have your education side, your legislative side, and your service side. The DVP is strictly in the service side.
Okay.
So where the vice president of the AFFI works on education, the president and the legislative reps work primarily in the legislative, improving the benefits at the state level, getting us things like, working with the AFL-CIO to get the Workers' Rights Amendment, for example.
Yeah.
The Substitutions Act, the SEBA benefits, all of these things that we have that, frankly, a lot of us take for granted.
Absolutely.
Is because of what they do at the legislative area.
Yeah.
And then the service side is getting the resources to the individual locals. Because in the AFFI, we're a different kind of, when you think of unions and trade unions, IBEW or laborers or carpenters or electricians, they work in such a regional area, right? So they'll work on a contract for laborers, and it doesn't matter if you work in DeKalb or Elgin or you're working off of a contract that's regional.
Okay.
We have local autonomy. We can make our own rules in Elgin that's different than South Elgin or Aurora, and we can vote the way we want to vote, and we can do the things we want to do. It's a double-edged sword, but the more you work together, the more successful you are. So
Yeah. Well, and you brought up that, I mean, just on a micro sense, the sharing of that, where we have our neighbor department who's going into negotiations and wants to talk about it.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that brings your slogan right back into play of like, yeah, it's why wouldn't this become more of a web and not just individual kind of things hanging out there, you know?
Yeah.
And I think universally we're recognizing too in the fire service that we're all more in the same condition than we thought we were. We all got the same problems. We're going through our cuts, and other places, big or small, going through their cuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, why wouldn't we compare apples to apples? Because size difference aside, it's all the same stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see how, you know, us as a relatively larger department would get that mentality of like, well, we're big enough and we have enough resources and we have enough smart people here, we can figure it out. And how a smaller department would be kind of at a disadvantage of that, you know. But at the same time, I could also see how a district VP would be not more interested, but extremely interested in the larger departments too. Because, I mean, how many times have we looked at departments as a false comparable and be like, they're bigger than us and they got this. Why can't we have something like that?
Right.
And so we view the bigger departments than us as having more, so we have to try to match them. So why wouldn't you want to put more? Why wouldn't you want to also allocate attention to the big departments so that it helps out the smaller ones?
100%. And you know, you brought up a great point that I have been witnessing real time. Some of our smaller departments.
There we go. Okay, hold on. We're going to try to get through this for the third time here. So, ran out of battery. Came back, and we're going to finish that thought before we go on to kind of a call to action that you're going to educate me again on a call to action. But I just said, why wouldn't you want to pay more attention to the big departments to help the smaller departments? So keep that going.
Yeah, no, it's just basically like some of today's smaller locals, depending on their location, could be tomorrow's larger locals, mid-size or larger locals.
Yeah.
And nobody comes to mind more to me than Plainfield, who's grown about 10 times their size in the last decade because of their expansion, their land grabbing. And you know, some of these smaller locals, you know, who knows, Pingree Grove, for example, is somebody that just organized a couple of years ago, and they're just our neighbor next door, but what's next to them? Corn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You don't know when that's going to get leveled off, and then you have industry and houses that are being built, and they could match our size someday. Who knows?
Right. Well, even if they don't, even let's say they, and I don't know any numbers, let's say they have 30 people now, right? And maybe just for arguments of saying smaller departments, 6 full-timers, right? Even if they double that and they have 12 full-timers, that's an enormous jump for a department. It's not like just because they're not at 130 full-timers, they're not worth it, right? Yeah, doubling your membership from 6 to 12 is
a big deal.
Doubling your membership. You're doubling your department.
Yeah, and you know, we just organized Bristol Kendall, and if you're like me and didn't know where's Bristol Kendall, it's Yorkville.
Okay.
Yorkville is the central city, right, or the town, and we organized them this summer, and which is another cool thing about that DVP side is getting to take a local that's not take a department that's not unionized and organize them, and they're starting off with 25, 27 member local, which is big for somebody that's just getting started. But they're going to be like Plainfield. When you look at what they're surrounding, you know, they've been growing so fast already, and their district is bringing in plenty of money, so they're getting the things that they want. But pretty soon they're going to have all this expansion outward, and then, like you said, if they go from 27 to 50, that's a big deal.
Monstrous.
That's a big deal, right? And so it's important. It's important for these locals to share that information.
Yeah.
One of the things that you asked me about like one of those aha moments or whatever when I go around to different places, is something I just recently started telling people about. When I became union president, you know, you step into the role and you only do what you learned from people before you.
Yeah.
And you think like, okay, I guess I can take this. I've seen so-and-so do it, and I had plenty of experience in the local, in my other roles. But they just say, put your hand up, swear it in, figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and at the same time, Elton had this reputation of saying, don't call the DVP, handle it yourself, you know. So I'm on the phone a lot with our lawyer. I'm on the phone a lot with my VP at the time, and just always trying to get this done. But there was a sense of like it was imposter syndrome, right? Like I feel like such a fraud. Like, why am I the guy here? Like, I'm not ready for this. We were in some major battles back then.
Yeah.
And historically big fights for us.
Right.
And I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is too much to handle. And I looked around, and some of these other municipalities that were similar to ours were dealing with a lot of similar situations. Staffing cuts. Peoria, for example, was dealing with the staffing cut. The Pasiba fight came later for them, where it came first for us. But again, everything was paralleling in these other places. So I worked with another DVP, Art Thompson, from District 5, and we reached out to these other locals that all work in a municipality of 100,000 population or greater.
Okay.
So that's your Springfields, Peoria, Rockford, us, Naperville, Joliet, Aurora. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but what do they call it? Like the Big Seven, or what they call it. And we met and we hosted it. And basically it was like, hey guys, we're coming together because we see that we're all fighting the same fight, but we're all doing it in our own little bubble. Yeah. Let's communicate to each other and see how we're all handling these situations. Long story short, we get done. Chris Scroll is the president of Rockford. He says, you know, our chiefs do this once a month. They meet like this. Our city managers do this regularly. He goes, this is a big deal. And they said some really kind things that felt nice in the moment. You know, like this was important to put together, and we should do it again. So that gave me that validation that like, hey, I'm not alone, right? And it was that aha moment that I was just like, oh my gosh, like it just took somebody to say, hey, is anybody else feeling this way? You know? And that was that big moment for me. That was my shift to say, yes, we're better when we communicate together.
Yeah.
And if a caucus of the largest locals in the state brings everybody together and gives them the tools and the confidence and the education that they need to move the ball forward, imagine what it feels like if you get Lyle with Lombard with, you know, like bring these other locals, Seaville and New Lenox, places that maybe aren't talking as much as they should, or maybe they're right next door and they just aren't talking because they think like, I don't want to reveal that I don't know what I'm doing. Sure. Isn't that just a classic firefighter thing? Like just to hide it. And it's just one of those things where all it takes is one person to be like, I'm going to raise my hand because everybody in the room is thinking the same thing, you know? Like Con Ed, I got a question.
Oh, dude, I'll never forget. Not to go on a tangent and draw this thing out, but the union meeting we had after we ditched jump companies, right? And the memo went out, the running order changed. We're going to have a meeting in a week, a union meeting in a week. We're done with jump companies. Here's how we're doing it now. And we implemented it and we're doing it, right? At that meeting, and that's the first meeting I showed up to in years, right? Like I said, I'm a bad fireman and union member. Bad. We're sitting there and I'm like, cool, we're going to talk about this because I have some questions about it. And you got to the point of like, okay, so we went through this staffing reassignment. We got rid of jump companies. This is how we're running now. Does anybody have any questions? And everybody was just kind of like quiet, you know. And there must have been 50 people there. It was a pretty substantial meeting, maybe more. And I turned to the person next to me. I'm like, did he send out something like an information sheet on this? And they're like, I don't think so. I'm like, nobody has any questions about this?
Yeah.
So I raised my hand. I'm like, I have a question. And we kind of got into a conversation about it. And I was like, how does nobody else have these questions? And afterwards, everybody had those questions. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if anybody just assumed that we would learn about it eventually, or it didn't matter, like it's happening anyways, who cares, or what the deal was. But it was a major thing that happened. And I was like, how can we all just sit here and not have a question about this? And afterwards, you were like, that's kind of how I expected it to go. Like, if you didn't ask a question, I wouldn't have been shocked because people are just going to either rely on me to give it to them, which I will, or they'll just go on not knowing. And they're just going to do their job anyway. So we're an extremely for as high maintenance as we are, we're also very low maintenance, right?
Yeah.
And I think that can aid us in a lot of circumstances. Like, yeah, great, I'm on this today. Just let me put my boots on and go do my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It also hurts us in a lot of way of like not thinking past, hey, I'm on this thing. What are the implications of that? And what does that actually mean for our working conditions? Or what does that mean? We're all too willing to just do the job a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And so that, I mean, it's just building a case. It pays to have people like you saying like, here's why we're doing it. You can continue to keep doing your job. I'll worry about the backside of it, because if you don't care about it, I can't make you care about it. And you shouldn't force yourself to care about it.
Right.
But if I can care about it and I have the resources, then I'll take care of the back half. You go play the game, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, man, what a great point too, because that has been the lesson learned of a lifetime in doing the union work. So often I'm a union member just like you are and just like everybody else is, right? Joe Galli has his own personal opinions about stuff. At my core, I'm still a firefighter at a coffee table going, you know what we need to do? But as union president, I had to really suppress a lot of that, because people take it as, oh, the local's president thinks that we need to do this, right? Or it gets reframed as, you know, maybe a priority to the local, when it might just might be my opinion venting, right? So I really had to suppress a lot of that. But I do have my things that I care so deeply about that I wish other people cared as deeply about. And I just had to learn. I'm like, you know what? If I'm the solo artist here, then that's it. If take our station tones, like, to me, there is no greater crime being committed than our alerting system.
Yeah.
It's too loud.
It's rough.
It's nonstop. We've incorporated another municipality who stand alone. I like them, but I just don't need more talking.
Sure.
We talk probably 75% of the time on the radios, and they're to their 25.
I feel bad for them because they got to hear
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was at their local meeting last night.
Yeah.
And all I heard was engine 3, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, I heard it there. And theirs was quiet, by the way. It wasn't obnoxious like ours is. They were in a meeting room and you could talk like we're talking, and it was normal, but they had their radios just on, clicked on just so they could hear it. And and I just came to realize, like, there's people that are like, yeah, it sucks, but nah. And that's the level of what they think. Yeah. But to me, it's like, this is killing us, man. This is like,
this is a big deal.
This goes all the way back to, you remember that time when we were at Fives, I think, and I told you about that Redmond Symposium in 2007 when the surgeon from New York or wherever he was from is like talking about every time the alarms go off, it causes that.
I talked about this with Matt Spade, right?
You did. Yeah. You did.
And I never texted you about it either.
Right.
Until this episode came out.
I was driving when that happened too, and I was like, "Oh yeah, they're talking about it," and then I got out of my car and forgot all about it. But I'll never forget, because you were kind of like, "Oh, that's interesting" or whatever, and but you were like still kind of like skeptical, like, "I wonder if," and then you did an actual test on yourself. Do you remember? Yeah. You wore a heart strap, and then I think you were on engine 5. So like an ambulance call would come in, they went out, and you noticed your heart rate spiked, and then it just sat there for a long time. Yeah. And then you guys went on a call, and you noticed that it started to go down when you started throwing your gear on.
Yeah, you could time it out between the because it had a time marker on it, so you could compare that to the time the call came in, and it spiked when you open your eyes, and then rose until you got to do something. And then had a dip when you were getting your stuff on, and then rose again as you were riding to the call. And then you compared the on-scene time to the heart rate monitor. It would spike again when you got out of the engine, and then have a little dip as you started running around doing stuff. Yeah. And then gradually build back up again. So it was like, it was very interesting. Yeah, I actually forgot, until you just said that, I forgot that I even did that. But it was very interesting.
Yeah, and it's just like one of those things that once I know about it, once it's knowledge that's in my head, that was awesome.
Oh, he's not done.
Hey, bud.
Hey. Hey. No.
One of these days, man, you got to have a one-on-one with him.
Oh,
the Nathan pod.
Oh God, dude.
That'd be great.
I do every day. I have several one-on-ones with him. I always end up in tears for one of us. Oh, yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about all that. I wonder if those microphones are picking up his screaming. Real quick. I'm not going to vote for you. Like, structurally, I'm not going to vote for you as the VP, right? You need the delegates from the district to go and vote for you at convention is how you get elected to be DVP, right?
Yeah, that's the process that is laid out. So like Matt Olson's term ends June of 24. The Naperville convention of that year is when the delegates assemble at convention and vote on all the different directions that we're going to go for the next 2 years, do business. The very last day, officers get elected, and those delegates that are at convention go in to a ballot booth and cast their vote.
Okay.
Matt's not going to ride out the remainder of his term. He's going to be done in June of 23, so there'll be a special election. So this will allow more locals than just your traditional delegates that can afford to go to various conventions. This will allow more locals to attend and cast their votes. But not every local has the same number of delegates. So an Elgin, for example, has 6 delegates because of the number of members in their local. Aurora has 6, Joliet has 6, and so on. Naperville. Some of your smaller locals, for example, like New Lenox or North Aurora, they're going to have 1, 2. Carpentersville has 2. Yeah. You know what I mean? So depending on the size of your local means how many delegates you have to vote. So now in local District 4, there's 60 locals. So you're trying to meet with everybody because at the end of the day, it's important. This is why I hate the election side of it, the campaigning side of it, because you want to do the work of DVP and meet these locals and everything else. But because it's an election, you also have to try and get their votes and their endorsement. And there's a process where you don't want to make one local feel like they're less important, you know?
Yeah.
I went to, I think Geneva was the very first place I went. And Seville was like right in there too, after Elgin. But, there's some locals that like, hey, how come you haven't come out yet? I'm like, I'm trying. Like so many locals have meetings on the same nights or maybe on our night. You know, like I had to skip one of my first general meeting I missed in the entire time I've been in officer position in 16 years. I had to miss my very first general meeting. I came to it late, but I didn't chair it, and I was president, and so it felt awkward to have to like put my priorities in different places. Yeah. And but at the end of the day, I'm just grateful for going to some of these locals, and like the one last night, they're a neighbor, and I could have gone there so much sooner, but they understand. They understand I'm trying my hardest to make it to everywhere, and we still have time. And it does feel tremendously early to be out there doing this stuff, but at the end of the day, like if you don't start now,
there's so many.
Yeah, there's so many, and they fall in such regular occurrences. I mean, so many places like we do ours is always on the third Tuesday, right? Historically, we know the meeting for January of 2032 already. We know the date, right? Because it's always on that third Tuesday. Well, other locals do that same thing. So whether it's the second Thursday or first Friday, there's a lot of locals that mimic each other's,
So right now when's the convention? And it's in Naperville. So when is that going to be held?
That's June of 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's early, right? But in the meantime, you need to continue to keep getting out to departments. Yeah. And securing their endorsements and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So so that's a call to action, right? If you're in District 4 and you want to talk to Joe Galli and get more of a read on what he's talking about, what he wants to do, what he's interested in, how he can help you guys out as the DVP, we're going to have him back on here for a few episodes highlighting specific issues. Like we can talk about FLSA, we can talk about PSEBA, we can talk about stuff that you're going to be consulting locals with and educating locals with. So I think we're going to have you back on for those specific topics or highlight some questions you get as you travel around. But having Joe out to your local is obviously the best way. It's obviously the best way to do it because you're going to be able to actually have him captive for, 20 minutes after he drives 2 hours to get to your joint. You can talk for 20 minutes and then drive 2 hours back, and he's willing. So as much as I hate to say it, take advantage because he's making a push, man. So why don't you tell people how to get in touch with you so they can request your presence at their joint?
Yeah, any number of ways. I mean, I don't know if you want to put it in your show notes or whatever, but
I'll put it everywhere. I'll put it on the wall.
I'm on social media, Joe Galli for DVP. JoeGalli.439 is my Instagram. Most people seem to contact me through email or social media. A lot of local leaders that are requesting service usually go through Matt, and then Matt directs them to me. So phone number, text, or whatever. I
would only assume that Matt can't campaign for you, though, at this point.
Matt's a pro. He's one of those guys that, first and foremost, he asked me to help him out as an assistant DVP, and I said yes, and I've been doing all these reps, and it's been great. And so he's really been a great supporter of mine in this, but he's not outwardly endorsing me or campaigning for me because at the end of the day, he's still serving my opponent,
right?
As the DVP, he's got to help out in that area too. And my opponent is also a tremendously good guy.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a great race because it's not the typical race of politics where it's like, pick your dirt ball.
Right. Exactly.
So.
And I mean, if I lose to Scott, I won't, be sore about it. But at the end of the day, I do believe that I'm the better candidate. I mean, I wouldn't run if I didn't think that,
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I don't say that with ego necessarily. I just, because of the work I've been doing and the reps I've been doing and the job of assistant DVP, I know that if Matt leaves in a handful of months here, a year earlier than he's supposed to leave, he can hand me that baton and I'll run that anchor leg.
Right.
And the ship won't sink.
Right.
It's gonna just stay smooth. But on top of it, I have this vision because I've been doing this assistant job for long enough, and all the relationships I've had over the years, not just as president but as a local leader. I've seen some of the things that I think we can change to make better. I have a vision. I know that I'm not going to be able to be sworn in on day one and be like, okay, we're changing this, we're changing that. It's going to take some time. Get your feet under you, get the rhythm, but after you establish relationships as an officer, that's when I know you'll make those changes. And I think that we can make some really great improvements on the education side and the communication side in District 4, which to me has been the biggest game changer as a local president.
Yeah.
The more I've communicated with other people, the better I've become. And the more things that I've gone to and educated, it's just reps, I didn't learn what placebo was the very first time I went to a union meeting. It was just background noise, placebo. And now I know the intricate details of it. FLSA, most people are like, I know I get a Kelly day.
It's on the check once in a while.
It's 28-day cycle. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But nobody really understands the ins and outs of it. Spend 3 weeks talking to an IFF lawyer about FLSA because you're working on the issues within your own department. And it's eye-opening, It's until it affects you, until you get those reps, you really just kind of put it off on the back burner and you set it up. But over time, you get to experience all these things. And then you get to understand, if it benefited me, I know it can benefit these other places.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do. I just want to share it, So at the end of the day, it's a good race. Scott's keeping me honest. It's making me a better candidate, so I appreciate him for that. But hopefully I whoop him.
Yeah, right. So long story short, all your contact stuff's going to be in the show notes. I'm going to tag you on social media and everything. But if you fail to remember anything, just reach out to Matt Olson. He can give you contact information. I mean, he can actually be a conduit for contact information. Then Joe will take it and run with it. So, dude, this is going to be a marathon session we have here.
Well, we don't know how much we cut off already with the batteries.
Not much.
Oh.
Not much.
Not enough.
I'll cut out more of our bike riding and combat challenge stuff. Now, it might be a longer one, but I mean, this is valuable. It's valuable for everybody. Literally, if you're in Illinois, in District 4 or not, it's valuable. Beat the dead horse. I'm a terrible fireman and union employee. So learning just how there's 5 districts in Illinois and how they're split up and who votes for this and what the structure is and the resources available helps me. Just knowing that much helps me. So at any level, it's going to be beneficial to listen to a longer episode.
I will say if I have a parting message is I don't think you're a bad fireman. Maybe you're guilty of what we're all guilty of at some point is just, like you're focused on the things that your job requires you to be focused on, and then you have fourth shift to worry about and stuff like that. The best thing about being an Illinois firefighter is I challenge anyone to find another state to be a firefighter in where you have it as good. What I mean by that is, Kurt Hansen always talked about the muscles that aren't sexy, right? Like the mobility exercises. Yeah. And it's those things in Illinois. It's the non-sexy stuff that people take for granted, for sure. And I'm not saying I don't mean that in like a disparaging way. Like we all take things for granted, for sure.
Yeah.
But we are so privileged in Illinois to have the AFFI in the sense that the benefits we have at the statewide level, the state protections that we have, whether it's the PSEBA benefit, Substitutions Act, I can go on and on. Workers' Rights Amendment was
once in a lifetime.
Once in a lifetime. Are there states out there that have singular items that might be better than us? Like CalPERS in the state of California, their retirement CalPERS benefit. Is that better than ours? Probably. They have health insurance included in it, retiree health insurance and everything else, and their rate's a little higher. Okay, but they don't have some of those other things that I talked about. Those on-the-job protections. PETA, you get injured at work, and your pay actually goes up, right? I mean, I'm not advertising like, go get hurt, but the point is though is that PETA, before you go on work comp for one entire non-contiguous year, your paycheck is unaffected. The only difference is that it's also tax-free, so that's what I meant by it goes up a little bit. So it's tax-free, but your paycheck is unaffected. Workers' comp, as most people understand it, it's tax-free also, but you're reduced to 66 and 2/3, right? So, and your benefits get frozen, so you have to elect back into your health insurance and stuff like that. So, and your union dues and everything else. So everything on the right side of your pay stub, you have to request to move back in. So your 66 and 2/3 paycheck gets affected a little bit. But PETA is that, you tweak your knee, back feels a little tight, and you have to go to PT for a month or two. That first year of whatever injury you got, you're 100% protected, and that's a state benefit. That's the state of Illinois saying, we respect your job so much that we're going to protect you. Yeah. Nobody has that, man. It's amazing. So
I think that's especially valuable knowing that you lived and grew up in California. And most people look at, but Illinois doesn't have an ocean. It's pretty flat. So it's like, the guy at the table will be like, but it's cold sometimes.
Yeah. Did I tell you that I've now lived in Illinois longer than anywhere else?
No.
So now I'm in Illinois and I'm not a Californian anymore. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But dude, I'll tell you.
Congratulations.
Dude, my little brother's still with 2881 in Cal Fire and as a captain, and so I'm privy to some of the things that they get. I can talk to him and find out some of the things that they get, and I keep in contact with some of those Cal Fire guys too, or not California professional firefighters too, and they do have good benefits.
Yeah.
But like I said, I wouldn't want to be a firefighter anywhere else. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't. I mean, we just have it so well because of the relationships that have been built over time at the state level, and it's just so spectacular. So when you hear a firefighter at the table complaining about, I can't wait to get out of this state.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm happy to stay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree.
So,
I'm
not going to Tennessee anytime soon.
No, you still need like hospitals and stuff.
Yeah.
Your kids need school. Sorry, Tennessee.
Yeah.
You also, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an old Vince Rictanic saying, I'm not going to get
Say
his
it
voice
as
right.
him. No.
I mean, he's like, when I turn my faucet on, I want it to be clean. When I flush my toilet, I want it to go away. When I dial 911, I want somebody to show up. And in Illinois, you get that. Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, I think we have enough to make an outro.
Yeah.
Beauty, man. We'll have you back soon, and we'll have,
Thanks for the workout too. I'm gonna feel that.
You brought up a great idea. Maybe next time I'll get wireless mics and we'll do like a Hot Ones.
Dude,
episode.
I'm telling you,
After
that would be dope.
After that split squat.
That
finish, I'll
split
be
squat would be one.
Tell me
where,
about Pasiba.
You know what? Even if you don't publish it, we got to try it.
Yeah, that would have to be a video thing, because I was thinking too after you said that yesterday, like that'd be a great video to watch, right?
Oh yeah.
But if you're just listening, you're like, tell me about Pasiba, like. Those are not good sounds to have just on the workout sounds void of video in a microphone are not something that anybody wants to listen to. It just sounds like a rhino. So
I'll tell you, man, that's something to try.
We'll get the videographer out here for the next workout.
Yeah.
Then we'll do like me, you, and Dave Fell all together. We can just get nothing done. Just all avoid the hard stuff.
Well, some people will get a good laugh out of it.
Oh, God, dude. All right, man. Thank you.
All right, man.